Hey everyone, you're listening to InfoQuench with Jeff
and Amy,
a podcast with tips to make your life easier.
Covering pop culture, parenting, travel, minimalism, and more.
Hey everybody, and welcome to another exciting edition of InfoQuench. I'm Jeff.
I'm Amy.
And today's episode is going to be all about reality television.
Yes.
Love it or hate it. You know, a lot of people that you wouldn't expect to watch reality television do.
They do. There are a lot of closet watchers out there.
Yeah, and I have to admit that when reality television first came around, I wasn't a big fan at all, and I'm still kind of on the fence about it. I don't know sometimes what's being fed to me and what's really happening, kind of thing. So it's hard to kind of. But you know what? I will be the first to admit I get hung up on the drama. Something about watching these crazy people do the crazy drama.
Well, and we mentioned this in a previous episode. We talked a little bit about reality TV, and we said we were going to do a bit more of a deep dive in a future episode, and that's where we're at today.
Yeah.
And I find it fascinating how much people harbor guilt around watching reality television in general.
I know. Like we were talking about this before, and I know somebody who shall remain nameless who loves a particular reality show, but when you mention another one, they're like, "Oh, what are you watching that garbage for?"
So Jeff and I, before we, sat down to record this episode, we chatted quite a bit about our thoughts around reality television and really talked about the different shows that are out there. I think when people say reality TV, they tend to think, Real Housewives. They have a certain picture in their mind of what reality TV is, but there are so many different versions out there now. So there's everything from the whole HGTV stuff,
right,
like with Sandra and the property virgins. Then they brought Trading Spaces back. There are, Master Chef shows. And it seems to me that there are some shows that seem to be okay or more accepted to watch than others. And it got us to thinking, like, why is that? Why is it
maybe it's
acceptable
because
for you to watch, American Idol or The Voice, but if you're watching The Bachelorette, that's something lesser. Maybe
it's something as simple to the fact, like, okay, there are like really great bottles of wine, and then there are kind of not like very substandard ones that you would get at the grocery store. Well, same thing with reality programming. There are like really good. There are ones that are held in high regard for the way that they're done, and then the other ones are just kind of like trash TV. You know what I mean?
Well, it's an interesting analogy though, because I think people can say that there's a certain wine that is a high quality and people will universally agree, and, it's priced accordingly. I know there's a few exceptions, but, in general. But why is The Bachelorette a cheap wine? Why isn't it a higher price wine? What is it about that show that makes people view it as being lesser? And I should,
well, they can't all be zingers is the thing. That's why I think a lot of the reality programming shows that have come and gone, a lot of them have come and gone.
But the Bachelor and Bachelorette series,
no, that's
Bachelor
still
in Paradise.
You're right.
That is long lived. So despite the fact, what's interesting about reality TV is few people will admit that they watch it. Mm-hmm. But people are watching it because these shows are on for literally a decade plus.
Even if you're watching like Pawn Stars or what's that other one that's that they clean out the lockers and stuff, clean out the abandoned lockers and stuff.
Yes,
called?
The pickers and the
American pickers and Canadian pickers and like a lot of or even just like truck driving shows and stuff, like Ice Highways or whatever the hell it's called.
Well, Antique Roadshow.
Antique Roadshow is another reality show. You're right. That one's really scripted.
Well, if you look at even game shows, you could say in a way they're reality shows.
Yeah. So
there are so many reality shows out there, and now they've been around now, as I said, for.
Oh, geez.
Well, I don't know. Survivor's been around forever. That's one of the earliest shows, and I don't. People are still watching it.
I know.
I don't think people are judging those who watch Survivor. That's an accepted show.
It's kind of morphing too. Do you notice that? Like reality programming in general is sort of morphing because there's always been substandard of people that they're trying to, get as viewers. For example, the, Vanderpump Rules, that is like a show that's watched by many different, like, age groups, but the people that are primarily on the show are young, good-looking 20 somethings. Actually, there's one 30 something now, isn't there, or whatever? But
well, yeah,
it's
I've been so I have a few favorites, and we're going to talk a little bit about some of the shows that we watch.
Yeah.
I got into the Real Housewives series, and I was watching the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, and then they had a spin-off, one of the Real Housewives, Lisa Vanderpump, because she owns a few restaurants. She did a spin-off show that basically just highlighted the staff in one of her restaurants, Sir.
Right.
And which is, what is it? Sexy Unique Restaurant, I think it's
I have no
stands for.
idea.
Something like that. So that spin-off was Vanderpump Rules. And now I've been watching that. It's in its 7th season.
Yeah.
So the people on that show are now into their, late 20s, early 30s. So I've been watching them for essentially almost a third of their lives.
It's funny because I wonder, like, with that particular show, I wonder what people, because we've commented on this when we've been watching the show, that, they're just trying to stay relevant. They're just trying to do something to stay on the show. We talked about this before on a previous podcast, just very briefly, but that's what makes things like that fake to me. Like, that's what makes reality shows fake to me, when they're going out of their way to make themselves relevant just so that they can stay on the show and just so they can keep, remain relevant and get a check,
Whereas, we watch fiction with similar storylines.
Yeah.
I read some articles, again, just doing some research for the show, and Time Magazine did a great article a long time ago.
16 years ago?
Yeah, it was, 2003. And so when reality television was just sort of coming into its own. But they made some really interesting points about, the fact that reality TV is about getting involved in personal relationships. Like, by the time a season of Survivor ends, you know the players
really well
in it better than you would know, like, Law and Order's Detective Briscoe after having watched him on there for a dozen years.
And you know who's the villain, and you know who's the one that will help anybody, and there's a full gamut of human relations and characteristics, in those kinds of shows.
Well, and I guess it throws what we, common beliefs. It sort of puts them to the test. It talks about the fact that, companies value team spirit, but Survivor says, a team is going to screw you in the end. Or
exactly. Same with Big Brother. It's like
there's a cult of self-esteem that says everybody's talented, but then you got American Idol, Simon Cowell. Yeah. Easy for me to say. Simon Cowell. When he tells people to, sit down and shut up, puts them in their place. So it's, it does make us question commonly held beliefs.
It holds a magnifying glass up to human nature, like the way people are to other people, on a sociological level. To me, that's why I kind of find it interesting to watch, human beings be human beings with other human beings, Well,
that article talks about, when you talk about it talks about social criticisms of reality TV.
Right.
And that it rests basically on two assumptions. One is that millions and millions of people are just being taken in by reality TV's deceptions. Except for the critic themselves. We know.
It's an escape.
I think at this point, most of us know that reality TV isn't full reality. We're not kidding ourselves there.
They're not Real Housewives.
Just because we watch it doesn't mean that we fully believe that that's, that the cameras are having zero influence on how they're going about their daily life.
Right.
To me, it's a ridiculous assumption for anybody to say, "Oh, you watch reality TV, so you think that that's actually
real."
No,
it's entertaining.
You can watch it and
sometimes
realize it's not 100% reality and still get enjoyment.
I know. I was doing a little bit of research before we did this podcast, and it's true. A lot of reality programming is scripted. Like, people are put with certain people because they know that they'll clash, and this will be the end result, which is what the producers are looking for. All that kind of stuff. It's interesting.
Basically trying to create drama that you would script into fiction, right?
In all honesty, though, the producers are playing God with these shows. Sometimes they make all the decisions.
And so of the two assumptions, the second assumption is just that, we as viewers are being led astray by the unsavory messages in these shows. Again, I don't think we're giving a lot of credit to us as viewers. If people are, if they truly feel that that's the case, that it's, we're going to go out and, I don't know, reenact the drama that we see. Yeah. I'm sure there's always exceptions, and there will be some people who do that, but the vast majority of people who are watching reality TV are just getting the same type of enjoyment as if they're watching an episode of Breaking Bad or Sopranos.
Exactly. They're getting the same amount of entertainment. A lot of people are. It's interesting too, though, because that show Alone, for example, the reason why I really enjoy watching that particular program, that's a program where people go out into the woods and they see who can stay there the longest, and whoever does wins a lot of money.
Right, and it's on the History Channel.
It's on the History Channel. Check it out. Yeah. But like, the reason why I would like to watch that particular show in particular is because it's like you get to be in the shoes of someone. You get to experience something that you would never want to experience on your own. Right?
Well, and I think that one is really, it's more realistic than maybe some other shows where you have a full camera crew on. So what's the unique thing about Alone is that they send the people out with just the cameras, and they teach them how to film it themselves.
And they do, they get all the shots, and
So they truly don't have that, they don't have the crew, or I guess the producers there,
right, maybe
trying to direct the how things unfold. It's truly just them, and in the essence of who they are, and so to me it seems more real. So I enjoy that aspect of it, but I don't.
It's escapism too, though, because I feel that I would never want to do that on my own. I wouldn't want to do that. But man, is it entertaining watching somebody else do it, because you can go, oh yeah, if I was there, I'd do that too, or I wouldn't do that. There goes my finger, there goes the knife,
So, well, if you like Survivor, definitely check out Alone. Alone is, I think at least the first 2 seasons were set on Vancouver Island.
Yeah.
So it's nice to have a show that's set in Canada, although I think the vast majority of the participants are
there's always some Canadians.
Oh, okay.
I think.
And the way it works is they drop them off, and they're all separated from one another. As we mentioned, they have their own camera equipment, but they have sort of an emergency phone where they can call to be picked up at any point. So when they want to give up, they get. And the last one standing, I think they win 500,000 or $1 million. But they never know at any given time how many people remain. So it's really just about them being
just perseverance,
being able to be
surviving
on their own, and it delves into just the feelings of loneliness, being away from family,
isolation. It's
and
incredible.
also
It
the
is
survival
a great
aspect
show.
too.
It is a really great show. And then of course there's a beacon that you can, you can press a button,
right,
and
which
then
is the emergency,
and they're there right away, and
crew,
you're out.
Yeah.
Which happens for multiplicity of different reasons, but it's really it's an interesting show. It's one of my favorite reality shows, to be honest.
Well, we started out early on with The Deadliest Catch.
Yeah.
On the Bering Sea.
Yeah, that was we went through some crazy marathon of that. I mean, who would have thought that would have been, such an exciting show, but at the time it really was. It was like people were falling overboard, and ships were like getting lost at sea, and did they get a lot in that pot? I don't know.
It's something we don't know that much about. So I think a lot of us were just really interested in learning more about it. We get food on our table, but sometimes we're just ignorant to how it actually gets there. How does that snow crab actually make its way on
the only other time where we would be on a ship, fishing for crab in the Bering Sea, was to actually be on that ship. So it's nice to be able to watch these guys do this and not have to do it. Just exactly the same as Alone.
Yeah, well,
exactly the
I
same.
think there's an appeal too, because when there's human lives at risk.
Yeah,
it sounds awful, but I guess that adds to the drama of the whole situation.
Well,
right?
It's human nature. It's human nature for sure.
So one of the other interesting things I read in that same Time article was just around how in Britain they really embraced reality television early on, and that was reflected. And I hadn't considered this before, but it was reflected in the original, when they first filmed The Office.
Right.
So just that's the shaky style of camera movements were supposed to mimic reality television, and even those confessional
personal
type interviews.
Yeah, that's
it's
true.
the same type of thing that they would do on like Big Brother or Survivor. So they took what they felt worked in reality television and tried to move it over to their sitcom, and they also tried to make the characters more real life. People, rather than these.
Basically, The Office is fictional reality programming, in a way. The way that they set it up, it's all scripted and whatnot, but it's set up to be like a reality program, which I'm sure a lot of actual reality programs like Survivor or whatever, that's all scripted as well. The things that they say during their interviews and stuff, a lot of that's scripted,
Well, definitely. And when you get into the contests, that's a whole different aspect altogether. So we were debating whether or not if something has a contest or like a competition aspect to it, is it more accepted as something that, you can watch as reality TV and not be judged? So shows like the Shark Tank or Dragon's Den,
definitely.
Canadian version of that.
Or the Ninja Warrior, that's a reality show too. Well, it's more of a game show, isn't it? Although, no, they do interview them and stuff, and it's be kind of, what I'm talking about, right?
No, I don't.
Hux likes to watch it. It's like, I watch it with him when it's on, that kind of thing.
There you
but
go.
It's like people going through this
just
giant...
like I watch Real Housewives and you watch it with me when it's on.
That's exactly it. I'm just like, yeah, all right, we'll watch it. But I will admit that you get caught up in the characters. You truly do, and you get caught up, more importantly, in the drama.
Well, there's a lot of...
That's what they go for.
If you're going from like a just human psychology, it's just fascinating to watch how people interact with one another and how what they go through and then how they forgive each other. When I look early on at what some of them have done to one another on one season, and then a few seasons later they're friends again. Well, I know that the paychecks to be on the show sort of keep the friendships together.
Yes.
But they do also forgive one another. And
these shows are not grounded in morality. They're grounded in immorality, because the more immoral you can be, the more popular your character is. Like, for example, in Vanderpump Rules, a particular character, Jax, let's go through the things that he's done. He's still on the show.
That's right. So,
people change.
Season 1, he and Stassi. Then he cheated on Stassi.
Yeah.
With her best friend.
It just goes on and on.
Not once, but twice.
I can't believe the stuff this guy has done.
He's engaged currently and had cheated on that fiance. So yeah, he's the villain, right? So
he slept with his best friend's girlfriend.
Yes, there's that too.
It's just unbelievable, and he's still on the show.
But he's sort of.
He's reformed.
The season his father passed away. He said that it's made him look at things differently, and he's reformed. And I think people like a comeback, or they like to see people transform.
We
love makeover shows. Yeah. We love when we get into shows like The Biggest Loser or any of those transformation shows.
Those are definitely reality shows as well.
And people get inspired by those. They get inspired for their own personal, change and
Would you agree though that the main aspect of all reality shows is escapism? Really. It's like people watch these shows to kind of, escape from reality.
So let's talk about some specific positives of that, because it's interesting you bring that up. There's actually some research that's been done on the positive benefits of reality TV. Cynthia Frisbee is a researcher out of the University of Missouri, Columbia, and she talked about the fact that reality shows really are they're a distraction from today's tragic events, that they give us as viewers an outlet. They allow us to watch other people who are overcoming hardships and escaping danger, living in the rainforest. Or
just living the life that you're not living.
Learning to survive under rough conditions and find love. Like when we watch The Bachelorette.
So you live vicariously through them almost, in a way, in a weird way.
And it makes you think that it's things are positive, things are
But truthfully,
possible.
don't you do that when you're watching just a regular movie? Like you have that suspension of disbelief.
I think when you see real people, though, you're more apt to
That's a good
relate
point.
to
Yeah,
them
that's a
and
good
say,
point.
if they can do it, I can do it.
Or if they can't do it, I'll never do it.
So if you're seeing people who are excelling in, if you see somebody who's all of a sudden made it big on Shark Tank, and you're somebody who's been debating whether you want to launch your own business, well, that might be, I'm sure that Shark Tank and Dragon's Den have spurred on a ton of entrepreneurs to get their,
Get their act together, no
get their act
question.
together.
Oh, yeah.
So one of the other positive things it's done is shows like Teen Mom and 16 and Pregnant, where they showcase
Which we've
the
never
reality.
watched, by the way.
I
that-
have. I've seen.
Oh.
I've seen some of the Teen Mom ones.
I've never watched them.
When he says we, he means he. But
Yeah,
sometimes
that
I
means
watch some reality shows on my own, and that would be.
Those
one
would
of
be
them.
reality shows that are guilty pleasures, right?
No,
Everybody's got one.
I'm really.
Come on,
with
you got one.
No,
Which one is it?
With this episode, I'm releasing the guilt. Of,
Oh, okay.
Of
You're no
watching
longer
these.
guilty of them.
I'm coming out of the closet and telling you all the.
I'm honestly still guilty about the reality shows that I watch. But
But the teen mom types of shows show the reality of being a teen parent, and they've actually seen a drop in teenage pregnancy. Like the National Campaign to Prevent Teen and Unplanned Pregnancy, they actually did a survey, and 87% of the people who responded, who had indicated that they watched those types of shows, 16 and Pregnant, for instance, felt that they were more educated about becoming a parent at a young
the
age
show
and wanting to avoid pregnancy.
was a contributing factor in them not having babies that are... Okay, well, that's interesting.
And the other thing that, it really does shed light on are mental illnesses. So we've got shows like TLC's Hoarders, which, of course can inspire you to just clean your house. But there's a deep-seated mental illness at work in shows
That's a
like
good
that,
point.
or shows like Intervention.
But we as viewers, though, how many times can we like conceivably watch the same problem over and over? How many seasons of Hoarders can one person watch? It's the exact same. Well, maybe not the exact same.
I'll
but
let you know when I get to my limit.
when you get to season 14
when they have the
or whatever.
when they have the marathons.
I just, you know what I mean? It to me, that particular kind of show becomes extremely redundant. It's
It
like,
does, but there are people in this world who are suffering from those types of conditions who will relate in watching those.
right.
And maybe feel like, hey, you know what? I'm not alone. There are other people out there, or maybe it makes them feel better to see people who are maybe in a more severe scenario than they are.
What about the millions of people, though, who are just watching that kind of program just as a spectacle,
Well, they probably still have cleaner houses because of watching it.
We certainly
Maybe
do.
less dead cats lying around their house.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
So I think those are all benefits. So what are some of my guiltiest pleasures? I feel like that was almost a challenge.
Well,
So if you have not yet heard of 90 Day Fiancé,
oh gosh, yeah, we have watched that show, and it is entertaining. I'll say that it is entertaining because they really. I mean, you're bound to get some savory characters on a show called 90 Day Fiancé.
yeah, so let me just explain
It's
the
like-
premise of it a bit.
Okay.
So it's set with it's Americans who are basically meeting people online or traveling to other countries and meeting people, and then they bring them back to the States, and they bring them back on a visa that is a 90-day fiancé visa, and they basically have 90 days to get married.
If they don't, they go back to their original
They have to go
country.
back to their home country. And I find it fascinating because you get to see in the initial episodes of the season, you get to see all of these different countries, and we love traveling, so it's just great insight.
That is true. It is
and
interesting.
to see these reality shows filmed in other countries.
Like that guy from Jamaica. Do you remember him?
Yes.
Jay. Is that his name? Wow.
Yes.
Look who's got the memory tonight. Well,
See, you pay attention to the show.
I do. Oh, God. Yeah.
Well, there was one couple. I'm trying to remember the name here. Corinne was the girl. Corinne and Paul. Corinne was from Brazil, and Paul was the American. And they actually couldn't even speak to one another because they didn't speak each other's languages.
Oh, yeah.
She lived like on the Amazon River.
He went all the way there.
And then he used a translation app to communicate with her, and they did eventually get married.
Yeah,
so,
had kids and stuff, I think, didn't they?
Yeah, so there's certain scenarios when you're watching the show where you'll see people who are in very dire conditions, living in impoverished countries, and are looking to start a new life. There are other people who just truly have fallen in love and just happen to have been from separate countries. So there's different scenarios.
It runs the full gamut for sure.
The interesting thing is that when they come back
circumstances.
to America, there's always at least one person on every single season that says they're just in it for the green card.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Some get super racist about it as well. You know, they have that racial overtone where they're just like, automatically there's no chance that there's any love here. There's actual infatuation. It's just, you're just trying to get out of your country. It's actually really quite hard to watch sometimes, how quickly people jump to that conclusion. And I know they do it because they love the person, but at the same time it's just it's surprising.
Another I guess
this
is probably one of the guiltiest of the guilty pleasures.
Yeah.
Is Love After Lockup.
Oh goodness. Yes.
We actually didn't get very far into that one, but it's people who are dating people in prison, and then when they get out, they get married. But there are people who have been dating like years.
Yeah,
and they're not
always,
just petty crime. The people are in there for all kinds of, they're in.
There's always goofballs too, though.
They've significant crimes.
That one goofball who like just has given like over $100,000 or something like that to one woman that he loves in prison that he's never met, and then she gets out and she wants like a house.
Well, yeah, and so he's basically funneling money to her while she was in prison to pay for her drug habit.
Yeah.
So
this is crazy.
That show gave some insight into just I guess how the life of luxury some people are living in prison.
No question.
And just the motives behind it. Why some prisoners were sort of reaching out to get these people to start corresponding with them so that they could manipulate them into sending them money.
I think it happens way more than people think. People start as pen pals.
Obviously, they can find enough people to make a whole show out of it. Now, we ended up eventually dropping it because I just found that the concept got a little tired after all. But some of the other, I love Real Housewives, and there are a ton of them. I love New York, Real Housewives of New York, because I watched Bethany. They're in season Bethany,
right? Yeah. Is that her last name?
Yeah. Yes, don't pretend you don't know Bethany.
Who's
Frankel's
Bethany?
last name.
What show are you talking about?
So she's Bethany of the Skinny Girl franchise. So I watched her.
She's not even a housewife.
11 seasons.
She's not.
Well, that's a whole other conversation about how few of them are married. But she started out in a small apartment in season 1 as remember she was doing samples at Costco for her as a natural food chef. And, compared to where she's at now, she's selling.
She's on Shark Tank.
Yeah. Exactly.
She's making deals.
Canada had Real Housewives of Vancouver and Toronto. They were
short-lived
season. I don't know why it doesn't really catch on as much in Canada. Melbourne, Real Housewives of Melbourne, and there's one from New Zealand that
Australia.
They're still going on. So Melbourne, Australia, and another one from New Zealand.
Isn't there one from London too, or is that another
Ladies
show?
of London was on for a few seasons.
They're not Real Housewives, they're ladies.
Well, they were more like with the aristocracy and
hello, my lady.
Learned a lot about manners and skeet shooting and hey, you know what? It's fun. Oh, and Below Deck. I'd be remiss if I forgot about Below Deck and Below Deck Mediterranean, which will show you the most beautiful places. So if you're looking to
we should cover these shows in part 2. We should do a part 2 of this because I know you have.
I'm rushed because I have so much to say about these wonderful
hopefully
shows.
I'm not rushing you. I know I go out on tangents, but I thought all my tangents were quite pertinent.
No, they were great.
Time.
I think we need to we'll do another. This will be the first in a series, so
yeah.
Consider this part 1 of a series, and I hope that you watch your next reality show with a little less guilt. Yeah, or completely guilt-free.
Guilt-free, why not? Just watch what you want.
Life's
people.
too short.
Okay. Thanks for listening.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks for listening.
Be sure to visit InfoQuench.com to subscribe and catch up on past episodes.
You can also check out InfoQuench on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Till next time.